Hello and welcome to our Glasgow 850 celebration. I'm your host Jessica Elliott, and today we will be looking back on the past 50 years of Glasgow, how we have evolved and changed. We will be joined by three guests who can shed some light on key parts of Glasgow and can walk us through the many changes in the past years. We will be exploring the unique architecture of Glasgow, the development of tourism and its impact on our economy. So, let's dive in. Hi Neil, it's lovely to have you on the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Jess.
How are you doing?
I'm not too bad today.
Fantastic, glad to hear it. So you're part of the Glasgow Heritage Trust. Can you tell us a bit more about what you do and the impact that your work has on Glasgow?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, Glasgow City Heritage Trust, it's been in existence for about 17 years or so now. And we're predominantly a grant funder. So we help grant mainly repairs to buildings around the city, historic buildings around the city. A lot of those are tenements because Glasgow is obviously a tenement city, and a tenement's incredibly important to Glasgow and how it appears. But we also do other buildings around the city centre as well. So we do things like the Willow Tea Rooms, and we also helped out with the art school, though it was quite unfortunate what happened with the art school. But we also host a lot of exhibitions about Glasgow's heritage, and we have a podcast too of Glasgow's Walls Could Talk. So where we interview people right across the city, there are whole different communities who have different histories in Glasgow. So we're interested in documenting those and getting people's stories out there too. And publications and we do lots of work like that. Community outreach, traditional skills, that's a key issue for us. We need people who are going to be able to repair our buildings. So we're really interested in that too.
So yeah, lots of important work and very hard work. So what are some of the key architectural styles that define Glasgow's cityscape, and how have they evolved over time?
Okay, I would say that Glasgow is most definitely as a classical city. So there are occasional, you do get, Gothic buildings. And so obviously Glasgow Cathedral is a great Gothic building, and Glasgow University as well, which was a very controversial choice as a Gothic building because at that point, in the sort of mid to late Victorian era, Glaswegians very much identified this city as a classical city. And so this choice of going for Sir George Gilbert Scott, the great English architect, to produce something that was going to be the equivalent in the West End of what the campus was that was on the High Street here, that was a very controversial choice. So, and then the same people who backed that then decided to build the Stock Exchange, which is on the corner of Nelson Mandela Place and Buchanan Street. And that's also in this kind of Gothic style. But the architect who did that, John Burnett Sr., he actually plagiarized somebody else's design for us and was caught for it, which is quite funny. So there's whole stories there. But predominantly Glasgow is a classical city. And you see those kind of traditions building over time. So you get people like David Hamilton, who built Goma and the whole square around it. He's considered the father of Glasgow's architecture. And it all builds out from him. So you can follow all these family trees of various architects who are working in that kind of style.
You mentioned a lot of names there, and one name that always comes up is Charles Rennie Mackintosh.
Indeed.
How do you think his vision has shaped the city's identity today?
Mackintosh is a really interesting figure because he's kind of a fusion of Scottish baronial architecture with Japanese architecture. And that's all because of Glasgow being this kind of great entrepot, and it was a great trading city that traded around the world. So, Glaswegians are amongst the first people to actually properly engage with Japan after it reopened to the West once more. And so he was aware of all those kind of early works of art and things that were being brought back to the city from Japan. And he tried to emulate that in his work, which is what gives it this kind of sort of very gridded nature in parts. And he plays around with that. And he also plays around with, he was really interested in this kind of late Victorian philosophy called theosophy, which is all to do with spiritualism. And the idea is, and he expresses this in his architecture, the tree of knowledge and the seed of knowledge gradually germinating into a tree. And you can see all these motifs throughout his work, which culminate in the library at the Glasgow School of Art. So he's a really interesting figure. He does, unfortunately, kind of end up kind of designing himself into a wee bit of a cul-de-sac. But nevertheless, because of how the 20th century went and how we kind of respect individualism and see all these motifs throughout his work, which culminate in the library at the Glasgow School of Art.
No, that's incredibly interesting, and thank you so much for that insight. We'll be back shortly to discuss tourism in Glasgow.
My favourite building in Glasgow has to be the Transport Museum in Glasgow, the new one. It's actually designed by one of my favourite architects.
For me, that would be the Gallery of Modern Art, so GOMA. It's got library, exhibitions. I love going there and seeing all the exhibitions.
My favourite is Kelvin Grove Museum.
Architecture is important in Glasgow's culture. With stunning buildings, it attracts tourism. This brings us to our next topic, where we are now joined by Ros Menzies and Aileen Crawford, who will be discussing Glasgow's economy and tourism, how it has changed over the past years, and what will be different in years to come. It's great to have you both here. I'll come to Ros first. So can you tell us more about city sightseeing and what your role is there?
Of course. Well, City Sightseeing Glasgow, part of the larger city sightseeing franchise worldwide, and owned and operated by West Coast Motors and Craig of Campbelltown. So we are right now the only tour bus company in the city of Glasgow. And in our winter, we run our single tour route, the red route, and in the summer, we'll have our two routes, the red and yellow. So we run bus tours. Every day we have a bus out. We have 21 stops around the city, and obviously it's a hop on and off service, so you can get in and out. And as you go around different stops, we have, in the winter, audio guided tours. And in the summer, we do offer a good number of live tours as well.
Sounds fantastic. So tour buses like yours are a great way to see the city from a fresh perspective, whether that's, live or audio. So what is the most popular tour that City Sightseeing provides?
So we have in terms of actual tour routes, we provide the red and yellow. Normally, for a few years now, our main route, our red route, is the one that we've offered to our visitors. But over the last couple of years, we've experimented with our new yellow route, which is complementary with our red line as well. Red route covering places like the Kelvin Grove Art Gallery, the Riverside Transport Museum, and of course Glasgow Cathedral and the university. All three universities.
And finally, just touching on some of the more popular tourist destinations, what one is the most popular and why do you think that is?
Probably the most popular one, maybe at least in terms of anecdotally and what I see from customers, is probably the Kelvin Grove, because it is, an absolutely beautiful building and a very, very kind of stark and beautiful red sandstone as well. It's free to enter, but it's just an absolutely beautiful museum inside and out. The changing of their different paid exhibitions in the lower level is always very interesting, so we like to keep in touch with what's going on there. And obviously with the daily organ recitals, that's a really easy sell. If someone's not sure what to do or where to go and you want to get them to experience something really special that they can't get anywhere else, it's saying, hey, well, get there by 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock on a Sunday and you can listen to a live organ recital. So generally speaking, if someone's there and they've not got a lot of time, the first place I'll point them is the Kelvin Grove.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and for that insight. After the break, we will be delving deeper into Glasgow's economy and exploring its links with tourism.
Choose Glasgow Central Station, where you can get a train to almost any part of the UK.
Choose Glasgow.
Choose Buchanan Street.
Choose Glasgow.
Choose the Necropolis, with the best view of Glasgow you could possibly get.
Choose Glasgow.
Choose Glasgow purely for its unique and amazing architecture.
Choose Glasgow. Choose the immense range of buskers.
Choose Glasgow.
Because the people make Glasgow.
Welcome back to our economy chat. Let's chat with Aileen Crawford now to find out more about the impact that tourism has on the economy. So hello Aileen, it's lovely to have you here today. So you work with Glasgow Life. Can you tell us a bit more about what it is and what your role is there?
Sure. The Glasgow Life is the lead for the city for major events, conferences, leisure marketing and tourism. And my role at Glasgow Life is that I have the pleasure of heading up the Tourism and Conventions team.
Fantastic. So what is Glasgow's Tourism Strategy 2030? Could you explain what the plan is all about and what it hopes to achieve for the city?
At the end of 2023, the city launched its Glasgow Tourism 2030 strategy. And it's really a plan to make sure that the city makes the most out of the visitor economy and to make sure the visitor economy delivers for our visitors, our businesses, our citizens, and also delivers for the environment.
How do you think that festivals and conferences, how big of a role do you think they play in boosting the local economy?
It's really smart for any destination to consider seasonality when it comes to tourism. To be able to spread and be consistent when the visitor comes to the city is really good for businesses. And it also supports the citizen experience as well. And Glasgow's long understood that and has focused on festivals, leisure visitors and conferences to really spread that seasonality. So when you consider a festival like Celtic Connections, it's there to light up January and February and bring visitors during the quieter winter months. But we've also got that kind of plan for festivals that run from the Glasgow International Comedy Festival, the Film Festival, the Glasgow Mela, the Merchant City Festival. You can really dot those festivals across the city and encourage locals but visitors to come and visit. Conferences are another way of spreading seasonality. So conferences traditionally meet in the spring or the autumn, and that leaves the summer for our leisure visitors.
You mentioned events like Celtic Connections and various others. Which specific attractions or events in Glasgow have seen a significant boost in visibility and attendance due to tourism?
If we look back to 2023, the city had an incredible boost when it hosted the inaugural UCI Cycling World Championships. There was over 1 million spectators came to Scotland to watch the cycling event. And you consider that the economic boost from those visitors was over £130 million to the local economy. And hopefully many of your viewers will remember Banksy, Cut and Run. It was the very first solar exhibition that Banksy had put on in 14 years, and it was a record breaker. 180,000 people came to the city for Banksy's Cut and Run exhibition. And of course, that brings a fantastic economic boost. So these special events, these special occasions can really boost the economy, but also the reputation of the city as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Elaine, so much for such a great rundown of the economic side of Glasgow. Before we finish up, let's see what our lovely Glaswegians think about the future of our city.
Well, I hope it changes for the best. There's some beautiful buildings in Glasgow, and unfortunately a lot of them are being left to disrepair. And I'm kind of hoping that they get the finance to bring them back up to a usable kind of level.
I think in 50 years it'll be a lot greener, a lot more environmentally friendly.
In 50 years Glasgow will be more of like an eco-city, so it'd be nice if they brought back more trains and maybe trams.
I'm not sure, but I think it's going to be more or less the same.
Be a lot cooler, a lot more technology, a lot more advanced. I'd like to see self-driving cars about, that'd be really cool. Self-driving taxis.
Maybe we'll have another subway line, hopefully, get around easier. I could see some flying cars in here.